It's Transformers 96 here with another movie review. This time I'm going to be reviewing the Wonder Woman movie from 2017. So let's get started here. We'll say that this will be a completely spoiler-filled review. Not going to hold anything back, and at this time I've seen the movie 3 times, as well as I'm sure that while doing this I'll miss something, when next time I see the movie I'll be like, oh, I should have talked about that. But I did try to cover as many things as I could, and I do have a bit of an outline here that I'm trying to follow. So let's get started. First of all, just the tone and pace of the movie in general. I like this. This was a nice kind of change from what we've been seeing from the superhero movies, particularly with DC. DC movies have been very flashy and very saturated without much context as far as story is concerned, especially with Suicide Squad. So this movie, first of all, it was more colorful in general, but it still feels like it fits in the same universe. So it doesn't feel like all of a sudden it's a Marvel movie or anything like that. But it doesn't feel as hollowed out as far as the color is concerned. The story and the pacing is slower than your average DC movie. I will say that this is a slower superhero movie, which I personally really like. I like the focus on the story, and I think that it's a really solid story and one that I was interested in seeing play out. So I did enjoy the fact that it is a slower pace. I could see that though hurting its repeat viewing value, as well as maybe its value for kids watching. So I could see that the pace of this movie might hurt it financially. However, I think just from a story perspective, it does help it tremendously, which obviously helps its very good reviews. The first DCE movie that actually has good reviews, and not only good reviews but great reviews. At the moment of filming, this is at like a 93%, which is like 1% off from tying as the highest rated superhero movie of all time with Iron Man and Dark Knight. So this has tremendous reviews. But I do like the tone and the pace of this movie, although I can see it hurting its repeat value for people watching it over. Its connection to the DCEU, this is something that I really do like. A lot of people complain about Marvel, how just about every movie, has so many Easter eggs and so many things that connect to other movies, and I like that. So I really, don't understand why people are complaining so heavily about that. However, with this movie, it doesn't have much of a connection to the rest of the DCEU at all, and I really like that. I actually really enjoy the fact that it was just such a standalone story on its own. It doesn't even happen like in the same time period as what the other stuff is happening in. So I just kind of like the fact that it was a really contained story. It's a solid narrative that doesn't need anything extra added to it. If this was the only movie of Wonder Woman that we ever get, it's such a solid story and it doesn't need anything else, because it was a really nice, well-constructed beginning, middle, and end of a very important chunk in Wonder Woman's life. So I do very much like how disconnected it was from the rest of the universe. Now, going over the actual characters here, Wonder Woman herself, she's a great character. I think that Gal Gadot, although I wouldn't have thought that she'd be super good as far as acting's concerned, she does very nicely, and I do like how charismatic she is, and she's got a bit of an innocence to her, especially when she comes to Earth, which I think plays very nicely in that kind of fish out of water scenario. And she obviously, from a physical standpoint, looks the part of Wonder Woman completely. I think that she will be forever tied with this character, that's for sure. Considering for a lot of people, this is kind of like their introduction to this character, considering she had, an old TV show quite a while ago. However, this is the first actual movie for Wonder Woman ever, which is very, very special. So I do like Gal Gadot's performance as Wonder Woman. I thought just the Wonder Woman character is excellent, of course. She's the driving force of this movie. Then we have just some of the other Amazons, particularly Hippolyta, her mother. I think that she's solid. I also like the fact that there is quite a few exposition scenes in this movie, but they're done in a really natural way. Like, it doesn't feel like it's forced exposition. It feels like there's a really solid reason for all of the exposition that doesn't seem so much like, oh, there's one guy in the room that doesn't understand this, so we've got to explain it to him. I really do like the way that they've added the exposition in this movie. It's really well done. And I bring that up when I talk about Hippolyta, because she's part of that at the beginning there. So, but overall, do like her character. She's not in the movie a ton, but I do like her and her relationship with her daughter. Antelope is Robin Wright's character from House of Cards. I didn't expect her to die right away, considering she's, one of the more well-known actresses in this movie. But she dies in the first act, which I think is surprising. One thing that I'm also very confused about, that somebody else commented on that I heard as well, is the fact that when they ride into battle on the beach, she's got a big smile on her face. And from, what this movie tells us, war isn't something that the Amazon should hope for, although they prepare for. So it is strange to see her so happy about it, and I almost thought that maybe she'd have a bit of a villainous turn when that happened. So I don't know if they were trying to set anything up there, but it does seem to be a little out of place in the scene. But overall, I think that she's a solid character. She again is not in the movie very much though. Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, he's great. Chris Pine kind of plays a very similar character in all of his movies, but it's a very likable, very well constructed one. I do think that he was very good, and I think that his sacrifice in the movie is excellent, and I love the way that they did the sacrifice, and I'll talk more about that when I get to the end battle, but I really loved the fact I really loved what he says to Wonder Woman and how they inserted in the movie. So well done. Etta Candy, she's not in the movie very much. I thought that she would be in the movie a bit more, but she was very fun. She's very funny. I think that the store scene of Wonder Woman trying on clothes really was sold by Etta Candy and her reactions to some of the things that Gal Gadot did. I thought that was very nice, and she was a nice addition, and certainly not overused. As far as their three war buddies, I would kind of call them. Charlie, I thought that he could, when he was first introduced, I was a little worried that he might go a little cartoonish. However, I thought that he fit nicely, and I do like the fact that they tried to give him a bit of a subplot of struggling with some of his pasts in war. I think that was nice. Sammer, I believe, is the name of the other guy. That's what it seems like, although I don't remember them calling him that in the movie. But I thought that he was a nice character. He had some funny dialogue, and I do like the very small subplot of him wanting to be an actor, although that's not really explored very much. It's only used for one piece of dialogue, but I do think that it was a nice addition to his character. And then the Chief was the one that I found to be the least interesting. I feel like he could have easily just not been in the movie, but it would have been a little odd because it would be like, if he wasn't in the movie, it would kind of be like two partners, where you'd have Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, and then you'd have Charlie and Sammer. So I think that it's just kind of nice to have a third member in there, so that it feels like Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman plus their gain of three. However, I don't think that Chief really adds anything to the movie. And also I found that the actor, at some parts he had a really nice kind of quiet tone to him, and in other parts he kind of lost that. So I felt really disconnect with that character, but I don't think that he was quite necessary. Dr. Poison, I think that she was kind of interesting, although at some points she kind of went a little cartoonish in the way that she was delivering her dialogue. I couldn't tell if that was the ADR or if it was just the fact that she had the mask on, which was kind of adding a little bit more to her performance than she was actually doing under the mask. I'm not quite sure there, but overall I thought that she was pretty nice, but there was some moments where she delivered a piece of dialogue that was like, whoa, that was a little too cartoonishy. Like when she, looked at the camera basically and said, "It'll be terrible," in a very, mustache twirling villain like. It was a little odd. And also the German general that she works with, I thought that he was a nice character. I think that they completely should have taken out the idea of him using gas to amp up. I think that was really unnecessary, because it's not necessary to sell the misdirect of him being Ares. So it wouldn't have been bad if they took that out for that reason. And then just in general, it kind of broke the realistic feel of this movie. I think that everything else in this movie I could really see, realistically for this world. However, that one just seemed a little out of place. So, and it was just unnecessary in general. Ares, I had known that the guy from Harry Potter was going to be playing him, so unfortunately, although I was confused as to maybe if that was correct or not as I was watching it, his big reveal wasn't too big for me. I also don't understand why he would be undercover trying to work out in Amistry. I know that he said that the humans would never follow it, but I really don't understand any sort of benefit of him doing that. What was the point in the slightest? So I really don't understand his kind of undercover persona, as far as it just doesn't make sense why Ares would have that undercover persona. It just doesn't fit. as far as the look of Ares, it's obviously not like this toy at all. And this toy is what really everybody has been looking at as what Ares would look like in the movie. This must be based on some concept art or something, because the movie one is much more like the comics, just kind of more of a guy in armor with the very comic-like helmet. And the only thing that's different about him in the comics is that he has a cape in the comics. It would have been kind of cool if he had a cape in this movie, just to kind of fill out the look. But overall, I thought that he had a nice look. I do think that the figure here, this concept art one, is better than the one in the movie, though, I must say. But nonetheless, I do still like the one in the movie, and I think that he did look very cool and have quite a lot of powers, which I think was neat. And I did like the fact that he was related to Wonder Woman. I thought that was pretty neat. Now, as far as the battles go, there's three main battle set pieces. One's on the beach with the Amazons versus the Germans. I think this was a very cool battle. You could really see the power of the Amazons, and it also was a nice way to introduce some really cool fight techniques and sequences with some of the other minor Amazon characters. And it also did show Diana for the first time the horrors of death, which is something that at least I'm under the impression that she hadn't experienced before. So I do like that quite a bit. I thought it was a nice battle in general, and it was a good setting for it too. I think that was quite nice, and it was really cool to see these two, a lot of times we get movies that are set in olden times where it's a lot of, two people with swords and shields going at each other, but it's kind of interesting to get one where you have one side that has swords and shields and crazy, good moves, and another side that's more blunt moves and with guns, so I think that it is cool to see those two different parties that are so different fighting each other. Then also the war front battle where she steps onto the front of the war and, breaks the line and then goes into the town and kind of sets free the people in the town. This is probably my favorite part of the movie. Really love it. I think that it's great. I love the fact, the build up to it as far as her seeing all of these people that she wants to help, but she's just told that she can't help them. So when she gets to that point, she finally says, I'm going to help these people. And she goes out. It's done wonderfully. It looks fantastic, very heroic. First time you really see Wonder Woman in her classic costume in this movie too, which is very special in and of itself. And I love her taking all of the fire on her shield. I think the way that she's standing is so cool. Like it's such a great position, and it's a really fantastic looking scene. And as well as I do like the fact when it spills out into the city, the fight sequences are very nicely done. The choreography in the fight sequences are wonderful. Love the way that she flips around, and I do love the fact that it's set to the Wonder Woman theme, which is such a good theme. So I love that in general. And there is a lot of slow motion, which some people could not like. I personally like it. I think it fits with the DCU style. That Zack Snyder's a very slow motion type of person, so I think Patty Jenkins inserting slow motion in this movie does kind of fit the DC style, and it allows you to really see some of those great choreography and really see just how perfectly executed they are. It's not only when it's fast it looks cool, but also when you slow it down it just looks even better. And then the Ares battle at the end. This battle gets a little more comic booky. The rest of the battles, they're against soldiers and things like that, and they're rather realistic in some degree. And then, but with the Ares one, it's kind of just God versus God, magical powers, people flying, people, throwing massive heavy objects at each other, things like that. It's a little more like the Doomsday battle, the Zod battle, things like that. But I do like it. I think that, again, it's kind of like a trademark of DC at this point. So I do kind of like that end battle that's craziness, it's kind of fun in that fashion. So I think that's very cool. And yeah, I think that it worked quite nicely. It was a good battle. You get some decent screen time with Ares in his human form fighting, as well as in his kind of amped up form, which I think was very cool. Then Trevor's goodbye. Again, wanted to talk about this. I love the fact that they have him say goodbye to her when she can't hear him because she's just been knocked out and she has a ringing in her ears. I think that was tremendous to do that and to not know what he says, and then to show him die and sacrifice himself. And then at the very end, when she is kind of finding the strength not to kill Dr. Poison and instead to finish Ares, that then she kind of takes a second, thinks back, and does kind of hear what he said to her. And what he said to her is great too. It was a goodbye, but not in a sad way. Almost like, he really knew that he was excited to do this for her, basically. And I love the fact that he says that I can save today, but you can save the world. Wonderful line, and I love the way that it was inserted in the movie. It would have been so easy, and you know, most people would have just put it right in the middle when he said it, but to hold it off until a more important moment and after we've already seen him die, I think was super special. Very well done. I don't know who came up with that, but it was an excellent idea, and it really kind of elevates this movie, I will say. Like, that scene alone really is so smart in the fashion that it's constructed and placed. Really love it. I absolutely love it. And then just in general, the general impact of this film, I think, is very important. This is the kind of like first female-led superhero movie. There have been some in the past, but they've all been terrible and not iconic in the slightest, like Catwoman and Elektra. This one is obviously a very iconic character, and also it came at a perfect time because Ghost in the Shell had kind of started this narrative that a lot of people were reporting on, that women can't lead action movies and have them be successful. So now, obviously, this completely breaks that narrative and says the opposite, which is wonderful. And then what I think is actually an even bigger deal is the fact that this is directed by a woman. This is the first superhero movie, if I'm not mistaken, to be directed by a woman. Certainly the first big one and the first one in the last decade. And to have it be so successful and to have the action in it be so good is so important because, again, a narrative has been constructed that women can't direct action sequences. And obviously, that is not the case, so it is great to have just such a solid proof of that, that I think that this will help women in the industry so much more because female directors are very hard to come by, and they're almost impossible to come by in the action / superhero genre. So it is wonderful to see that this ground being broken and being broken in such a successful way that everybody's really responding positively to. So there you go. That's my review of this of Wonder Woman 2017. Really do love this movie. I think that, again, it does have a little less rewatch value than your average superhero movie, and I'm worried that that might hurt it, but I still really love it. And again, like, I've seen it 3 times. I do plan to see it more times. However, I'm probably not going to see this as much as I saw some of the previous films, such as, like, I just saw Guardians of the Galaxy 14 times. That has tremendous rewatch value. I won't get even close to that with Wonder Woman, but I do still plan to see it several times. So let me know what you guys think of this, what you think of my thoughts, and thanks so much for watching.